Alright, so here we are with game 2 of xCet versus TZP, and this is once again a replay cast. Game 1 is up. So if you'd like to watch that, then of course you can do so. I tend not to spoil, so I won't tell you what happened in that first game. But uh, it's available for viewing if you wish to do so. And let's just get right into the bans then, because I had nothing else to say about that. Keeper of the Forest Warbeast from TZP Ganal, so that KOTF was played last game by KZU to pretty solid effect. He didn't do super well in the laning phase, getting beat out by that Flint, but he ended up having, I believe, the second highest farm on his team, and just that root is always a problem. Get that portal key and that root, and it's just such good initiation, especially on top of that Soul Stealer ultimate. And then Jerzai basically makes everything impossible to kill. So you have 4 or 5 seconds of lockdown, a huge burst ult with Soul Stealer, and immunity with physical damage immunity with Jerzai. So good luck getting through that. Anyway, makes a bit of sense. Both you know sort of jungle heroes, but mostly played as suicides, and both really targeted KZU. A lot of teams seem to be doing that, targeting bans of KZU. I guess the theory is that he doesn't have that much versatility, so if you take away a few of his more popular or favorite heroes, he won't be able to do too much. Not sure how much I agree with that theory, but it's not a terrible one. I don't think it's not completely out of the insane. There are a few heroes, even as a suicide role, I don't think he plays super well. It's particularly the ganker types. He's a good bubbles, but stuff like Grinix, I don't think he's done particularly well with a hero like that. He does prefer the farmers, but we'll see how he does with Grinix, because we've got a Grinix, and that's almost certainly going to be in KZU's hands as first pick. Going back to the bench real fast, Ophelia Scout on the hands of Pew. So once again, Pew's banning out Scout, which is typically a KZU hero, so it's kind of curious that he's banning that. He doesn't have first pick here, but of course there's the Pesty still on the board that was ended up being first pick, and that's a very common first pick, so I probably would have preferred to see the Pestilence bane even with knowing that's a first pick, but like if you're Hellborn, you don't have first pick, and you have to sort of expect that's going to come out, so a little interesting taking away one of KZU's favorite heroes for a hero that is often considered first pick material. Ophelia is particularly funny because Pew actually played Oph last game, so I don't know if he just didn't feel like picking it up again and didn't have a good time or what it was, but he had a decent game, didn't start out too well, but ended up being just fine as they grouped up and pushed, and Ophelia can do quite well in that role as a healer. Going into the picks real fast then, Pestilence and Torturer so far coming out from TZP, as both teams have used quite a bit of time. So this can be a mid Pestilence and a support Torturer laning together, which is a pretty solid lane. If Pesty, of course, gets that Impale Stun out, gives Torturer plenty of time to land at Chain Reactions, which has quite a bit of cast time, and the cast range isn't great, so they could set up with the Torturer Chain Reactions if somebody gets out of position, which certainly can happen, but they could also set up with the Impale, and I don't think that either of those are particularly superior as a setup stun, or as a follow stun for that matter. Parasite coming out for xCet on top of that Grinix, so a pretty heavy gank burst lineup coming out here. Not a lot of push and not a lot of late game presence. So, I mean, both of those heroes do scale fairly well, but it's not like they're right-click carries by any means. Parasite is more of a Pew hero in my opinion. We said last game, he's playing Oath. It's not really considered one of his heroes, I don't think. Like, he is a jungler and he plays it well, but it's not a traditional Pew hero like a Parasite or a Tempest. You see Pew play quite a bit of Parasite. As the Tempest comes out for the Legion team, so countering a jungler with a jungler, which I think is necessary. You had to pick that Tempest once they picked the Parasite, because I just don't think you can run two supports versus a jungler unless you're extremely aggressive in a couple of dual lanes or a tri-lane and you get a bunch of kills, because if you lose, it's really hard to win all 3 lanes, but with 2 supports and against the jungler, I sort of feel like you need to do that, because even if you only win the 1 lane, then you've split because the jungler gets an automatic win because he's in the jungle. And if you lose 2 lanes, you've basically lost the game, because you've lost 2 lanes and you've lost the jungle, and it's not a good position to be in. So good to pick up the Tempest here. Combos fairly well with the Pestilence Torturer. All 3 of them have stuns. Torturer's got a bunch of AoE damage, and so does Tempest has the ability to lock people down and allow that damage to go off. So a good pick there, I think. Rhapsody is going to get picked up by xCet, which is really the most popular support right now, and for a good reason. She has plenty of utility with the ultimate, the Dance Floor, and the Scuttle Stone, the Arcane Hymn. Not super useful, but we'll see. There's a lot of magic damage coming out of Parasite, so he might be able to use that a little bit. I don't think there's that much synergy between either of these first two heroes in xCet and the Rhapsody. She can gank reasonably effectively, but it's not like she has a ton of burst damage. She really just has the stun. If you wanted to go for a hero that would fare a little bit better, you probably could have gone with a lot. Aluna, stun and burst damage to power throw. Nymphora with the stun, just like Rhapsody, but it has mana to give back to Parasite or Grinix. Voodoo Jester, stun, Curse Ground. Even maybe Muradon, something like that. Maybe Glacius with the Imprisonment and the Tundra Blast. Puppet Master's got 2 disables, or lockdowns instead of 1. So, considering that they don't have a strong push lineup right now, the Rhapsody pick I think is a little interesting, because her Dance Floor is not going to do too much without extra creeps. It's just going to be a typical lane creeps, which it's still an effective spell, but it's not quite as effective without a Tempest or a Keeper or something like that to back it up. As they follow that up with a Rav, but let's go to the second stage of Banjo quickly. Gemini, Kraken, Moon Queen, Engineer, Wretched Hag, and Slither. So the theory on TZP's side is let's ban all the right-click carries, Gemini, Moon Queen, and Wretched Hag. So if you're going to do that, those are pretty much the bans you want to have come out. It doesn't leave too many options left for TZP or xCet in terms of a Nox hero. I assume that Rav's going to be on Zerago with a Rhapsody in the middle, which I like. I think Rav is quite a good hero, even with the decline of the hook metagame as that he was sort of brought in a counter. He's still quite effective. You could still run something like a CD, you could run a Carry Master, you could run, hey, we saw a Silhouette a couple days ago. I think Valkyrie's extremely valuable. There's Sandwraith, I believe Nox likes Sandwraith, I'm not sure on that. There's FA, so there's quite a few, and Soul Stealer. There's quite a few right-click carries are still left, but they've banned out essentially 3 of the best ones in Gemini, Moon Queen, and Wretched Hag, so those are really good bans, I think, coming out from TZP. On their side, they got banned Kraken, Engineer, and Slither, so a support and a couple of utility heroes in Kraken and Slither that can play multiple roles. I think that sort of reflects the inability of xCet to lock down this lineup, because they needed a Suicide, and they needed a right-click carry, and they got both of those in Dr. Pulsar and Bubbles. So, banning out Slither, I assume that I don't really know why you would do that. I don't know why you ban the Engineer, considering they already had Torturer. They could have picked the Torturer up as a carry, and that would have been just fine. I like Torturer as a carry, but he's also a support, so I think banning out a hard support like Engineer is not quite as necessary. And they're going to go Blood Hunter on xCet's side for their right. I assume that's going to be a short lane Blood Hunter, because I can't imagine that Nox is going to end up on Rav. That would be weird. And it is going to be Nox and Blood Hunter. And they're swapping everything around, but they better do this quickly, because Pew and Sender, you need to swap heroes. Okay, Pew's got that. That's really interesting. Sorry, as I need to. I don't know if that was intentional. I sort of have to assume it wasn't. Because right now we have Pew on Rhapsody and Sender on Parasite. Pew is a second support player, so he plays support, so it's not like crazy to put him on Rap, I guess, but usually you'd see that in a dual support lineup, and we have Parasite here. But obviously this wasn't remade because it was a replay cast, so I'm pretty thoroughly confused. I guess maybe Pew just doesn't want to play Parasite or isn't confident in his Parasite and feels like putting Sender on that role is better. I don't know how much experience Sender has playing a jungle role in the competitive scene. I don't think I've ever seen him play anything except support in an actual game. That seems really strange to me. We didn't finish going over the Legion lineup, so let's do that real fast with the Dr. Repulsor and Bubbles. I think both of those are strong picks. Repulsor and Pesty have tons of jump potential, especially once Pesty gets his portal key, and then Tempest can even join the fun. And so can Bubbles for that matter with Shell Surf. So they have a lot of jump here, with potentially 3 portal keys coming out plus Dr. Repulsor ult that allows you to traverse long distances very quickly and easily. Bunch of stuns, Tempest, Bubbles, Kelp Field, Torture, Pestilence, and then of course the Dr. Repulsor pull-in. So I do like this lineup quite a bit. I think they have a lot of team fight ability. You know, Tempest will do that on his own, but there's quite a bit of AoE damage. They got gank potential. Once Repulsor hits 6, in the early game they're gonna have to be a little more passive, but I think they can work through that. Lanes are a little interesting. From Hellborn, it's pretty obvious with Grinix bot, Rhapsody middle. I assume Rhapsody will come back here middle. Actually, Rap's gonna babysit this Blood Hunter now because they see this man up dual lane from the Legion side, which is quite interesting. I don't understand why you'd run the Pesty Tort in the top. Like, that's the expected lane, but it's usually middle, as Bubbles has decided to go mid against Rad instead. And I don't think Bubbles is going to win this lane. I don't think he's going to die because it's too easy to take cover the Ball Lightning. Although actually at early levels it won't last long enough, so if he take covers it, he might actually pop out on top of it because the Ball Lightning is relatively slow. So he's going to have to get a couple levels and take cover before he's able to effectively take cover that ability. Before that, he'll just have to dodge it. And he does choose to get 1 level in some. Let's see, I assume that will be take cover. Meantime, Rab's initiating on him actually with the Ball Lightning connecting, and Bubbles is forced to take a health pot. So I expect Rab to win this lane actually, and 214 gold per minute compared to 213 for Bubbles. It's relatively even. Denies are slightly in favor of Bubbles at 5 and 2 compared to 5 and 1. So far Bubbles is doing pretty well, but of course he's already used a bunch of regen and a health pot. He still has tangos, so he's brought quite a lot of regen. And Rav only has a couple of trees left, I believe. 1 tree left. So he's been harassed quite effectively here as top lane gets pushed out a little bit. This top lane probably doesn't get too many kills either because they only have 1 stun on the Hellborn side and that Rhapsody Staccato, and they've got 2 between the Pesty and Torture. So that's the problem for them. Now the lane pushes out a little bit. They could get a kill theoretically either on Rhapsody or Blood Hunter. Probably not Blood Hunter because Blood Sense will activate if he gets somebody low, and they'll probably try to do that as the Blood Crazy goes out. And the Dance Floor on top of Staccato on Pestilence, but that's not going to do nearly enough damage. And that's basically what we saw. Is those are their abilities, and after that they have to chase. And that did, 1/5 of Pesty self. So not particularly effective. And Staccato's guns come out once again to get Pesty down to 2/3 or so, but now they've lost lane control and they're under the tower, so Pesty's going to grab some free farm. Or free-ish farm, depending on the tower taking hits. Meantime, on bottom lane, we've got Dr. Repulsor up against Grinix. We've actually seen this matchup before, and Grinix won it. I believe that was Boxy on Grinix taking on somebody. I can't remember who it was, but it was a good team. Like I think it was Willowkeeper versus Denial. Yeah, Willowkeeper versus Denial as Boxy and Grinix actually got a kill and won his lane really against Flensmeister. Flensmeister ended up recovering and taking the win out for Denial, but Grinix can certainly win this lane. I don't really expect either of these players to get a kill on the other as long as there's some slightly safe play here from Doctor. And then, of course, with all the invisibilities, Grinix is probably not going to die to Doctor, especially before he hits level 6, and even after that, it's going to be rather difficult to kill him. Meanwhile, on top lane, once again, Blood Hunter's having a bit of a problem. He is out-leveling both of these here, of course, because Rhapsody's been off in the jungle doing not much of anything. Like, I don't understand what he's doing. I guess he's helping Pesty or Parasite farm, but we've got double stacks here in these 2 camps, and that's actually not particularly helpful for Parasite. It is here with the Wild Hunter for this camp, but because he can use a Tornado. But see, these creeps will kill this Vulture Lord really fast. So this is actually a pretty solid job here, getting these creeps down, and that's great. But he's got to be careful about how long he can do that for. Meanwhile, up on top, we see a little bit of initiation chain reactions going on Rhapsody, on Staccato Stuns on Torture, and the Pale Stun has almost already been used, and that's going to be a kill on Q on that Rhapsody. And actually, BH might be in trouble here, except he puts the Blood Crazy out on Torture, and that's a dead Tort. This Parasite comes in looking for a leech, and the Blood Sense is activated, but it's not going to be nearly enough to take down this Pesty. So that was actually a really nice Blood Crazy going out onto Torture, because it prevented the chain reactions from coming out as about to. As Keizu actually picks up a kill onto Doctor, so with the ultimate, he actually hit 6 before Doctor did, plopped his ultimate, and then there goes the stun, which actually didn't stun, but managed to grab a kill there. So this is sort of what we saw last time, with the Grinix actually winning this lane against Dr. Repulsor. Meanwhile, up on top, got a Blood Crazy coming out for Blood Hunter, but chain reactions come in here from Torture, and that's actually going to be Staccato Stun there on Pesty, though, as he comes back into the Impale and dies. So not really a great trade. Parasite for Pestilence. Parasite was farming, well, sort of terribly at 200 GPM. He's not the greatest farmer in the world. He really does need to be active and get kills in order to get his farm up. But you know, compare that to 300 GPM of Tempest and the 260 of Pestilence, so it's probably not a great trade for Legion. Blood Hunter is at 350 gold per minute, partially thanks to the kill involvement he's had at 1-0 and 1. And he is level 6, so he has the Hemorrhage, which is going to help a lot when it comes to preventing people from getting away. There goes the Hemorrhage, as Pessy's just going to decide to stay there, and he's probably screwed. Yeah, he's definitely screwed. Unless, nope. There's the Impalement. Actually, both chain reactions and Impalement misses. Bloodhunter's going to dive like crazy. They're going to need to do something. Blood Crazy's going to kill Pestilence, and that's going to make the dive from Nox completely worth it, as Keizu takes out Bubbles in mid. And yes, the Haste Room comes in with the Ball Lightning on top of the stun, and that's a dead Bubbles, despite the Somnicy. So nice gank there from Keizu, grabbing that Haste Room bot. Meanwhile, Gunall on this Dr. Repulsor is 6, which means he won't get killed again, unless he completely misplays and is out of mana when Grinix initiates, or they bring multiple heroes. Those are the only two options. So, at this point though, nice 5-2 hero kill lead, quite a lot. We've actually had more action the first 7 minutes of this game. We had all game last game, pretty much. It's quite a passive game last time. But slight lead here for xCet, and they've effectively won pretty much all their lanes with Blood Bubbles coming up top to do some harassment on Nox, but nothing's going to happen, as Nox is out farming everybody at 370 gold per minute, followed by Keizu at Zergo at 330 and Keizu at 320, so that's not good. The only lane they haven't won is the jungle with 300 GPM on Tempest. Is missing more kills as Tempest comes in. And there's the Dr. Repulsor pull in, followed by the stuns and the Tempest ultimate for a dead Grinix. Meanwhile, Ball Lightning to be dodged here in the middle lane. So, there's a Hemorrhage coming out of the Torture, and he's going to be in a ton of trouble. The Impale's going to hit Blood Hunter, but it's not going to be nearly enough, and actually Pestilence might be in quite a bit of trouble here if he's able to
The Legion have destroyed a Hellborn tower.
Leech from Parasite. Not enough, as Blood Hunter's kind of low. Meanwhile, bot tower got taken out by Dr. Repulsor and Tempest, so that's a nice little boost for the Legion side, as they actually even up the gold lead with that, and then have a slight deficit in experience with just 700. So as I was saying, they basically lost all 3 lanes except for this Tempest, who managed to do much better in the jungle than Parasite has at 190 gold per minute, and Grinix can put a little harassment out to Dr. Repulsor, but like I said before, it's going to be really basically impossible for Repulsor to die here. As the middle lane, Kelpfield goes out onto 2 Parasite and Ravener, but his Ravener illusions get spawned, and that's going to be the end of that. Done a water rep to see Grinix coming in. The Shell Surf can go out, but Bulb's obviously not going to port as Tempest is just running into Ravener. The Repulsor ultimate comes in, and that's going to be a dead Ravener as all 5 heroes are going to convert chain reactions with Impel Stun coming out, and Sorcerer gets that kill. The impalement damage also going to help with the tower now, as it looks like they're going to push, and Pub Train XX is living up to his name. As you see, all players on the Legion side group up as 5 to take this middle tower, and it looks like they might keep going, which is probably actually a decent decision, because I don't think that xCet's really prepared for them to be pushing a secondary tower at this point, and they don't have a lot of anti-push. In fact, other than the Rhapsody Dance Floor, they've got basically none. So they could possibly take this tower here. And really, it looks like they're going to. Between the Impale, the Tempest minions, and just the fact that there's 5 here, that's Hemorrhage coming out onto Pestilence as everybody comes in, and the tower is going to go down. Impale Sting comes out, but it's not nearly enough as critics. And actually, Parasite finishes off. Shellster comes out from Golf Bulls to let him get away, followed by the ultimate from Dr. Repulsor, killed down to 3, but a Rhapsody ultimate going to prevent a bunch of damage as Dr. Repulsor goes down and Roadrunner runs away. Grinix is here, but he's going to get hit by chain reactions and the Impale, and he's going to go down. Parasite's here, but he's in a bit of trouble actually. Bubbles is more in trouble, as actually we see a buyback on Pestilence, and he's going to come in with the Impale Stun, get us double tap for Torture. And I assume they're not going to keep pushing, but early buyback on Pestilence, not sure I agree with that one, because you could very well need that later, but it did allow them to clean up an extra kill, and now he can go back to farming. So they took 2 towers in middle at 10-11 minutes. That's reasonably impressive. You don't see that sort of aggression too often, really for good reason, because it's usually you just can't do it. Eventually somebody will respond, and xCet did respond. They were a little late, too late to save the tower, but they picked up a few kills, so you can't be too displeased with that exchange. I think it was fairly even. I believe Hellborn got more kills out of it, but Legion ended up with higher, with some gold. Actually, we traded 3 kills for, nope, 2 kills for 3 kills, yeah, so 3 kills on the Hellborn side and 2 kills on the Legion side with the tower, so relatively even. As Pew has just awarded this to high hell here with all these revs. I don't know what he's expecting. Looking at the gold situation, we've got Dr. Repulsor up there at 375, so he's done quite well now. His lane enemy in Grinix has fallen down to 265, so he's clearly done quite a bit better post the landing stage. Tempest, though, is the second in the game at 407, behind Nox at 435, so Bloodhunter farming extremely well. But so is Tempest, and really Dr. Repulsor's doing quite well also. After that, we've actually got pretty solid gold spread here on the Legion team. Torture at 260, Bulbs at 269, and Pestilence at 282, so very even. xCet's a little more staggered, 294 from Rab, 256 from Grinix, 212 on Parasite, who's still suffering a little bit, and 154 on that Pew on Rhapsody. So you sort of wonder if the interesting hero player combination decisions that were coming out for xCet, if they were intentional, whether they, in hindsight, whether they're working so well. Because I don't feel like Senders had the greatest game on Parasite, but we'll see. Killfield actually comes out in Ravener, and he's going to take the stun as Dr. Repulsor's going to come in, pull him right back in, and that's going to be a dead Rav. Probably. So here's 2 bottles of the rune. The damage I'll manage him, that's going to be enough. Face out coming in on Repulsor, that's not going to be nearly enough. The Tempest ultimate comes out, and that's going to be a dead Parasite now. Hemorrhage is on Dr. Repulsor, so he's dead. Tempest is going to pour out, because the staccato stuns, I guess, are not available. Or even used. Bubbles is here. He's actually going to kill this rat. Nope, staccato stuns are there, and down goes Bubbles. Chain reactions misses, Impale Stun comes out, and Pew needs to be real careful here, especially because there's no portal key actually on Bessie. But Pew escaping with about 20 health at the end there, so he was down in the teens easily. Solid fight for both teams. I think probably won by Hellborn, considering they killed both Bubbles and Repulsor. and the Legion team got Parasite and Ravener, so relatively even hero trades, but they got a Tempest ultimate out of Legion side, so they don't have to worry about that for a bit. And they actually picked up the highest farmer on, or the carry really on, not the highest farmer, on Legion. So this top tower push is going to come in a little bit, but not nearly enough to do really anything. However, both Pestilence and Bubbles are coming in from the side. Bubbles has his kelp field back up, and I would expect to see some aggression onto this Ravener. On the other hand, Parasite's right here in the jungle, as we see a Shrunk Ahead coming out for Bloodhunter. So they're going to run into each other, and there's going to be some bugs going out onto Parasite. He's going to stun the Vulture Lord. There's actually a bunch of stuff on him, so he can't do anything, and Parasite's actually in a ton of trouble here. Ball Lightning hits Torture, but that's not going to be nearly enough to follow it up. So, Sender not having a great time, 185 gold per minute. Let's take a look at items real fast. We've got a Ring of Sorcery on top of a Sustainer on Dr. Repulsor, so not going for that early Icon of the Goddess. That could possibly be a Nullstone. They have quite a few targeted stuns here. Or targeted everything's here on the Hellborn side, really. Staccato and both Parasite's abilities, of course the Blood Crazy and Grinix's Shadow Step, so as he's going to initiate here, but gets seen by that electric trap actually that support coming in from Torturer. So I presume that's mostly for the Blood Crazy, because Blood Crazy can mess with Repulsor. Dust of Revelation comes out, and that's going to be a kill on Rhapsody, but the Torture's going to pay for it, as Grinix is going to pick him off, unless, of course, he manages to get the slow off, and then there's the Impel from Pestilence, and dead Grinix. Parasite's also in trouble here if he can actually get hit by something. Repulsor has the slow, but he's a little too slow to actually use it. So Parasite will live. Meanwhile, Bubbles is coming in invisible and might look to get a pick on this Bloodhunter. He's got a kelp field. He's going to need to throw the silence out. Feast is just doing so much work getting Bloodhunter back up to full life. Anyway, so a bit of an interesting item choice here from Repulsor. I assume it's going to be a Nullstone. I don't imagine what else. It's obviously not going to be a Cleave. I guess you could split it and get, like, you know, some sort of defensive item and then a Sheep Stake or something, or a Storm Spirit, but that would be really weird. So there's a lot of targeted stuff. I assume that's mostly for the Blood Crazy, which is like 8 seconds long and just destroys Repulsor because he can't get in and out of fights. He does a bunch of damage, but he really relies on his mobility, so that silence absolutely screws them. Tempest has gone the Astrolabe, Ring of Sorcery, the Teacher, Steam Boots build, so more of the utility Tempest than the Initiate Tempest with the Portal Key. Very common build, probably even more common than the Portal Key is now. So certainly nothing surprising there. Bubbles, relatively weak actually. He has 301 gold per minute, but he's looking for his Portal Key. He's got Steam Boots and Word Dust of Revelation and a Power Supply and a bottle, so quite a lot of regen. But looking for that Portal Key next item pretty clearly, as he has 1,882 gold set out. Torturer, the support hero, playing with Steam Boots, Mystic Vestments, a couple sets of wards, and some dust, as Pestilence just picks up his Portal Key there and adds that to his Steam Boots and Mana Battery, and on bottom, Keizu's going to get picked, as he opens with the Riftstock and doesn't realize that he has a bunch of support there, including a newly Portal Keyed Pestilence, so that's going to be dead Keizu. So they have quite a bit more jump potential now on this Legion side with Pestilence and his Portal Key. Hellborn Tower goes down in favor of Nox, as the Legion side are going to push bot. Astrolabe goes off, keeping those elementals up, and the Impelment's going to come out. If they don't defend this, it's going to be a dead tower, because actually in middle, Bubbles is in a serious amount of trouble as the Kelp will go down, but Ball Lightning prevents him from doing much of anything. Pestilence ports in and jumps onto 3. We've got Tempest and Keeper, Torturer here both. So the chain reactions land, but there's the Tempest ultimate. And they actually have no interrupt for this, so it's going to be a full ult. And there's a triple kill. As a nice Impel Stun from Pestilence has 3. Bloodhunter is actually in a bit of trouble here, as there goes the flight, and here's the Impale in terms of Dr. Repulsor. And the chain reactions, and he's dead. So they actually did pick up the bot tower too. Pretty awesome series of events there for the Legion side. Tempest ultimate was not interrupted. He killed 2, and the Impelstone actually managed to hit the Parasite coming in, who didn't have a face hug, so I don't really understand what the theory was there from Sender. I guess he was just going to try to kill the Tempest, but he really wasn't going to. He was at fairly high life. Then they pick off the Blunt Hunter, of course, with the Portal Key and the Flight available from Pestilence. And then Dr. Pulsar as well, running in. And that has boosted Doctor to over 400 gold per minute, and the highest runner on his team, 433. Nox is still the best in the game at 467, but there's pretty clearly some momentum here on the Legion side, as they are up 9k gold and 6.5k experience. They've certainly sort of figured out their timing here, as really every one of these heroes on Legion is becoming especially strong right now. You just picked up the Portal Key on Pestilence. We just picked up a Portal Key on Bubbles. Now we got a Push Book on Torturer, and then Dr. Pulsar's level 11, so he has lots of jump potential, as the Wild Hunter's going to spot Bubbles here, and he's going to be dead. Unless, of course, the Portal Key Parasite comes in, but no. So no, it was a Hemorrhage used, yes. So they do get a pick onto Bubbles, but they had to use a few ultimates for it. Grinix, Blood Hunter, and Parasite all popping their ults. Most of those are on relatively short cooldowns, but Impel's going to come in here from Flesh Stuns, but he's going to pay that for Ball Lightning and Staccato Stuns, but where's the No Tempest ultimate as the Rhapsody ult comes out, but not enough to save Zergo. Dr. Pulsar now is on the hunt, looking for kills, as he's going to pick up a bunch of heroes. Actually, Chain Reactions hits 3, so everything's dying with Repulsor picking up a hat trick there. And now we're looking at an 11.5k gold lead, and an almost 11k experience lead, as it looks like the Legion side will push up the gut. So there's the GGs, and it's probably a decent call. So TZP actually showing real well here, and it did end up being an L-Stone on Repulsor. TZP showing very well here. They figured out the timing, really, I think, was the key to this game. They all picked up Portal Keys relatively soon, or within a minute or so of each other. They hit good levels to start to group up and take a bunch of fights, and that's exactly what they did. They started picking up a ton of heroes. There wasn't enough spread farm on the Hellborn side, really, with Blood Hunter being the only hero that had significant farm. And as a result, it was just too easy to kill all these heroes on the Hellborn side. Really, another big problem they had was they ran 4 melee. Personally, I don't think you can do that. I think you can do 3. I don't think you can do 4, because it just becomes a coordination problem with all these heroes in the same space at the same time trying to attack the same target, and they need to move around each other. It's a big issue, especially if nobody has Ghost Marchers, and it was only Parasite on that Blood Hunter who did. Everybody else had Steam Boots, and of course Striders on the face of Pew on Rhapsody, and then of course there was the whole Pew on Rhapsody Sender on Parasite thing, which I assume was intentional considering they didn't remake, but yeah, they couldn't get a remake. So, good game 2, and we are going to go to a game 3, of course, because that means that xCet won game 1, so I'm sorry if I spoiled that for you, but
A Hellborn barracks
so
has been destroyed.
goodbye for this one.